Big Zay.
Morning, Brad.
Morning, boys. What's going on?
Well, you're the man, and you have all the stories. What's going on is the season is over, Brad. I mean, hold on a second. It's kind of shocking. Instead of preparing for that trip to Seattle, you will be, tomorrow is the day you hear from the GM and the head coach. David, when describing his expectation of the offseason, used the word ruthless as to how Ben Johnson approaches it. Do you like that turn of phrase? Do you like that description of what will happen in the offseason?
Well, I think it's going to be very, very calculating. I think Ben Johnson is exacting in everything he does, right? And so it's going to be with an eye toward what puts the Bears in the best position to win in 2026, and they'll probably need a little bit of space between Sunday night's loss and meetings that'll help shape some of these decisions. A lot of people like to think that, just a little bit of time to kind of reset and clear your mind is a good idea. But, there's teams that have had a 2.5-week jump on the Bears in that process to this point, so it won't be too long. And he's going to outline his vision, what he believes is necessary. And, I think it's going to be a more aggressive offseason than you might imagine. And we need to remind folks that aggressive doesn't necessarily mean the largest size contract for players either. Like it just in terms of moves and there will be an urgency to build on the foundation that was poured out this season.
All right, Brad, so weigh in on the great DJ Moore question. He did not speak yesterday. I'm not quite sure why. There's a lot of consternation around the fact that he hasn't addressed what happened on the interception that we all saw and we heard Caleb Williams explain. Where he'll likely hear from Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles as early as tomorrow. But what do you make of what happened, the silence, and the speculation after it, and how important it all is?
Well, there were a lot of players I didn't see yesterday during the period that media was allowed in the locker room. So DJ was part of a big group. And when I say a lot, I doubt I saw half the players on the team. If I did, it wasn't much more than that. So would have been great to kind of get that behind everyone yesterday. I think it's been a little bit overblown. A little bit. The guy made a one-handed grab that was amazing earlier in that game. I believe that was on the opening possession, but I might be mistaken. One-handed grab on a high ball that looked like it wasn't going to be caught. He did time in the medical tent for a good stretch. He was on the injury report with a knee pretty consistently for maybe not every week, but for the final month and a half, 2 months anyway. So I think the convenient, let's blame everything about this loss on DJ Moore, which is going on out there.
Weird.
Is sort of miscast. Everybody wants a boogeyman and a fall guy. And he's a pretty valuable guy to them this season. And you want to talk about a guy that, his track record for answering the bell every week is pretty impressive when you consider how physical he plays and how much he gets hit. So I think it's unfortunate. But at the same time, you'd like a final explanation or two to kind of be able to tie a bow on the whole thing.
Yeah, Brad, I think I love the word ruthless because I feel that it's the correct word. Ben Johnson came into a room full of players and he knew some of them and he admired some of them. He learned everything about all of them. And he's a guy that has been elsewhere and he knows exactly the type of thing he wants for success in what he's doing. I believe Dennis Allen is going to do the same thing on defense and handle it the same way. I think there could be a large turnover. There's a large turnover with teams anyway, but you look at the number of free agents and you look at the people making the call on them, it's going to be based on the last year and their personalities and everything you learned about them. They will be doing a lot of discussion with the coaching staff, and they will come up with a group of players and a group of players outside the team that could replace them. I mean, there could be a lot of turnover. This has nothing to do with money. They can create money, but that is sort of what happens when new staff comes in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, turnover you see after 12 months or really 18 months when you get to the start of year 2 for the new coaching staff. You get even more turnover when you have a full regime shift, right? GM and head coach. But there'll be action and there'll be plenty of it. The number of free agents that they have isn't extraordinarily high. They've got 24 players coming out of contract. 21 of them are unrestricted free agents. The thing that jumps out at you when you look at the number 24, which is right about where it is most years, eight of them are in the secondary. Okay, so 1/3 of the players coming out of contract are in the secondary. We all know all the safeties are coming out of contract, so that kind of jumps out at you. But don't focus on 8 free agent defensive backs and get straight too far from the pass rush, the defensive line, and where I think they'll probably have a greater focus in terms of a overall plan during the offseason.
When you look at, Brad, what's ahead for Jaquan Brisker, he's the other safety, and he seemed to be a guy that was reflecting a lot, and maybe we're reading too much into it, but do you have any insight into what would be his chances of returning or getting offered a second contract? Ryan Poles he was one of the first draft picks by Ryan Poles in the second round that season. Had a great game, but has not always been on great ground here. I just wonder what you think.
I thought Brisker played a fantastic game against the Rams, was heavily involved, and was impactful for that defense and holding LA to 17 points in regulation. I thought there was a scarcity of impact plays over the course of the regular season. Had a pass breakup of Mason Rudolph to kind of seal that Pittsburgh game that just jumps off the top of my head to me. But you could go through games and be like, I can see Brisker do a whole lot just at first glance. Considering the concussion history, I'd be a little surprised if they wanted to invest a second contract in him, especially one that had a lot of money. They lived through it last year when he missed, 2/3 of the season, probably more than that in 2024. So I just think it would be a little bit dicey. And truthfully, you really can only have good money sunk in one safety. I mean, there's occasionally examples of teams that'll pay 2 safeties, but more often than not, you have teams that'll go on the cheap at both position safeties, then pay 2 of them. So if they want to bring back Kevin Byard and if he's amenable to what they want to pay him, they're going to have to go with a draft pick probably at the other safety position or some guy on a much smaller deal than I think Brisker would probably be trying to hunt in the open market. And it's a shame for Brisker because outside of the concussions, and you can't have a conversation that says that legitimately, but outside of the concussions, he's been very durable.
Brad, as you look at this team and the way they will approach the draft this year, do you believe it's going to be like a defensive draft as opposed to whenever you see a team use so many picks on offense early, usually the next year they'll kind of go defense. Do you feel they're going inside, outside on the defensive line? Is that the priority? We had a conversation yesterday. Is there a chance they could take a left tackle with a first-round pick just because of what happened in the playoffs, moving a guy, and we don't know about the status of the current left tackle, Ozzie Trapillo? We don't know that he is a left tackle, frankly. And I think he's going to be an offensive lineman for the Bears for a long time. I'm not trying to diss him in any way. I just wonder if that might be a surprise priority. How do you view what they're going to do in the draft to start and maybe the emphasis of it in terms of defense versus offense?
Well, a left tackle certainly wouldn't be a surprise in the draft because even had Trapillo stayed healthy throughout the end of the season here, I don't know that he had played to a level where you would feel like this guy's got it locked down. We've identified the left tackle of the future. We know this guy's going to be here for the next 3 years anyway, or something of that nature. So that wouldn't have come as a surprise. Yeah, I think the focus is of the offseason, and you get a clearer picture of maybe what the draft could bring after you see how the team is able to augment the roster in free agency. And they need to be better up front. Like, what did the Bears struggle with offensively against the Rams? It was handling, some of those powerful, physical guys on the defensive line that LA had, and the Bears need more guys like that in their roster. And so I think you look and see what, by and large, like, big picture is not a particularly great class of free agents this year. We'll see what it looks like as we get a little bit closer to March 11th. But even if there's not guys with star names out there, guys that are, have household names that play elsewhere, even if there's not a ton of guys like that, that doesn't mean that there's not a list of players out there that that can come in and help the Bears, can be contributors, can help raise that defense to another level and change the profile of it a little bit as well.
Brad, there are reports that Eric Bienemy, the running backs coach, is headed to Kansas City to interview with the Chiefs for the offensive coordinator job there. They requested permission. He has been there before. I just wonder, from your perspective, how big of a loss would that be? Does it surprise you? And is all of this tied into the fact that Matt Nagy is running out of contract in Kansas City?
Yeah, it'd certainly be interesting if Bienemy gets that job while Nagy's kind of hanging out there trying to nail down a head coaching job, and one that he had been linked to was the Titans, right?
Course,
because of his relationship with Borgonzi in the front office there from Kansas City, and that went to Robert Saleh overnight, right? So there's a door that closed for Matt, and if it's one of those kind of odd things where that happened to Ron Rivera, right? The Bears went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And Lovey and Ron had some interviews elsewhere, right? And Lovey did not want to bring Ron back as his defensive coordinator, but couldn't push him out the door because that would really, why should we hire this guy as his head coach if the Super Bowl Bears are firing him as their defensive coordinator, right? Like, that wouldn't help him. And Ron ended up not getting a head coaching job, and then he's out of a gig. Lovey promotes Bob Babich, and Ron had to settle for, he was like the inside linebackers coach in San Diego.
Right.
So is that potentially happening to Matt here? I don't know. I'm not going to try to read too far into that, but Eric Bienemy made a big impact on the Bears. Like, that was one of the, I had a column over the weekend about myth busting, right? All the myths that the Bears have kind of busted this season. My goodness, between like the last week of April and I don't know, week 3 or 4, how many times did you get callers or guys on the text line that were demanding the Bears trade for a running back, sign a running back, do something for a running back, right?
Yeah,
like
I think I was one of those guys.
Yeah, well, and so,
I wanted that kid from Ohio State in the draft.
Travion Henderson,
That's
right?
It. Yeah.
And the production that they got from the combination of Swift and Monangai was terrific, and certainly Bienemy deserves credit in that, as well as the offensive line and Ben Johnson's kind of vision for a ground game. But he was no nonsense, extremely demanding. I think he did a nice job with Monangai in terms of pass pro for a rookie. If it's only 1 year with the Bears for Bienemy, he helped make a difference.
It's a myth, Brad, that all the texts are negative, though. I need to bust that myth too. Sometimes they're positive. Especially after Big's time.
That's right. Always, people love you.
That's fine.
I was reading yesterday, Brad, that Mike Vrabel is now the longest tenured coach in the AFC East.
Yeah.
I mean, because Aaron Glenn was hired a week after him or 12 days after him. He was hired on January 12th. But that speaks to the turnover in the NFL. You must be so relieved that the Bears still have their head coach and they aren't making like a major change, and you don't have to deal with what 10 other NFL guys in different cities are dealing with this morning.
It's unbelievable. I had a conversation with a couple, personnel people I'm close with at the end of the season, kind of looking at the landscape, right? What's going to happen? Probably be 6 openings, because we can clearly see where there's going to be 4 or 5, and there's always a little bit more. But boy, not a good year to need a coach.
So true.
And then I said, well, geez, like the number just keeps climbing every year. I said, before long, we're going to get to the year where there's, the turnover's 10. Like a third of the league is going to turn over every year.
Yeah.
It's
this year.
One guy's like, maybe it gets there, which it's insane that it does that. And I said, and I agree. And that's where we're at this year. We're at 10. And let's look specifically in the division. Okay.
Yes.
No head coaching turnover in the division, but a new play caller in Detroit, a new defensive coordinator is needed in Green Bay, and with Brian Flores, a potential candidate for the Steelers job, or Dallas would love him as a defensive coordinator. Is it possible that the Vikings are out shopping for a defensive coordinator as well? There's been some discussion that they would promote internally for that job, but you'd still be talking about a third new coordinator in the division in 2026.